7 years ago, he launched an influencer marketing agency from his own cancer ward. Today, that business does over $500,000.
And then I went heavily on LinkedIn, actually. It was all LinkedIn. But the issue was, right, the signature got done on one day and the money came the day after. I'm just going to stop checking this because the bank told me it's going to come 3 to 5 days. But then I decided to check it one more time. And I opened it and I literally just like, whew. And the first thing I did was I phoned my parents, show my mum the number on my computer screen.
Before we jump in, I want to give a huge shout out to Scripe, who sponsor this podcast. Now, I actually approached Scripe to sponsor the podcast because I'm such a big fan of the tool they've built. Scripe is an all-in-one LinkedIn content assistant that will even build your strategy for you. It's like having a strategist, a content writer, and an analyst in your pocket. And I use it to save 10 hours every week when I'm creating content. First, I review my content performance using their in-depth analytics, which neatly show me what content types are performing the best. Then I use their inspiration feature to find viral posts from other creators to inspire my own. Whenever I have ideas, I upload recordings of calls I've had with my team, personal voice notes, or even YouTube videos I've created. And this is where Scripe is worth its weight in gold. It's analysed all of my previous content to get my tone down to a T. And it then uses the sources I share to write engaging and optimized content. And for just £1.16 a day, it really is a no-brainer. Click the link in the show notes and use the code KUROGO25 for $25 off your first month. That's KUROGO 25. Welcome back to another episode of Success Clues. This podcast is called Success Clues because success leaves clues. And the best way to build your business and become successful is to learn from other people who have already done it. Remember, stupid people already have the answers. Most people learn from their mistakes, and smart people, well, they learn from other people. And today we are joined by the absolute legend, Suhit. This guy's something special. 7 years ago, he launched an influencer marketing agency from his own cancer ward, which I think is crazy impressive. Today, that business does over $500,000 a month, working with the likes of ASOS, Currys, Shaw, ASUS. And he recently sold the business. And I think he's only 24 if I've got my fact checking correct.
You have indeed, yes.
So, can't wait to get into this. It's going to be a banger. So we're going to get into the exact steps that you took to build a 500k a month agency and sell it. But first, I've got to ask, who launches a business in a cancer ward?
I talked about this actually very recently, and I think when you are faced with bad situations in your life, me, cancer, someone else, it might be a relative passing or whatever the situation is, you have two options, really. You either let the bad situation in your life consume you, bring you down to a dark place where you just feel sorry for yourself, you wallow, and you just can't find a way out, or you take the adversity and look at it and think, what opportunity does this bring to me? And one of the quotes that I live by, quote by Napoleon Hill, and to paraphrase it because it's a long quote, is every adversity brings with it an equal or greater opportunity. And that is one of the sort of perspective shifts I had when I had cancer. And it was really, I have this adversity right now. What does this allow me to do? My brain still worked, my fingers still worked. I had the opportunity to do something online, and it was a good opportunity that I could put my mind into it and forget about the situation that I was in. And it also allowed me to channel the bad situation I was in into something positive. So that's really why I ended up doing it.
Do you think it's given you an advantage over the course of your entrepreneurial journey, having started in such an adverse position? Do you think that's actually served you well longer term?
I think so. I mean, I was at a lunch today with a client and a colleague, and there's two things that came up. Well, first thing was, I don't think I would have started the business at that point if I didn't have cancer. So that's the first advantage, is that it gave me the perspective of action and urgency. I live with a complete sense of urgency now in my life and whether that is urgency of getting something done, whether that is urgency of this needs to be done quickly, and understanding the reasons things need to be done at a certain time and fast. So urgency and action is the advantage that it gave me at the point. The second thing is that apparently it's a statistic, and I didn't know this, I learned this literally today at lunch, that I think it was Olympic athletes, they were doing a sort of analysis on the difference between bronze medalists and gold medalists. Okay. And they were trying to understand what makes someone a gold medalist versus just only being able to come second, third, fourth every single time. And apparently, there was nothing in terms of high nutrition, all of this stuff. The only thing that they could draw conclusion back to was that the people who face adverse situations have more mentally tough, and those are the ones that go on to succeed more. And we were even comparing it to F1 today. If you look at the two best F1 drivers currently, not necessarily currently on the grid, but Lewis Hamilton's not as great anymore, but come from a very adverse background. Max Verstappen, a significantly bad background. It's the mindset and clarity that it gives you, where nothing in your life is as bad as that situation.
I hear that.
So
I hear that. I've not actually spoken about this very much before, but I had a similar thing. I mean, I lost my dad literally a few months before, and I think that's so true. You're like, it could be worse. I think that could be worse mentality is so powerful, isn't it?
There's literally nothing that, everything seems so trivial to me now.
Yeah.
It's like, I something goes bad in business, and yeah, it's terrible, but it's like, it's not life or death. I've been through significantly worse, survived it, so nothing can really be on that same scale. So I think when you have that experience in your life, it gives you a really good baseline of what is actually bad, and helps you regulate your emotions as well.
Yeah, that's spot on. How did you actually stumble into influencer though? Because the business you started, the agency, was an influencer marketing agency, right? So why that? How did you find out that was a thing?
Yeah, so it came from actually trying to be a YouTuber when I was younger. So I started around the age of 12, 13, trying to be a gaming YouTuber. So I had 4 or 5 different channels doing different things. So I had one that was playing FIFA, Minecraft, I did animations. My biggest YouTube channel got to 37,000 subscribers, had a couple of videos that hit a few million views. And through that process of gaming, I met a number of people kind of just online and online communities. One day, someone came to our Skype channel, because that was what we used at the time, and was like, I've discovered this business model, I'm going to start it. It was essentially YouTube multi-channel networks at the time. Companies where you'd partner with a creator, take a percentage of ad revenue, and give them some sort of service provision. So he said he was going to do this, and we were like, yeah, let's just help out and get involved and join. So that was the reason I started getting into it. And when I discovered that there was this whole ecosystem behind YouTube, and it wasn't just me sitting, creating stupid videos in my room and uploading them, there was actual businesses that were helping creators make money, making money themselves, monetizing. I was hooked. I was like, how do I make money out of this? Because I wanted to be a doctor up until then, and I realized I can make money through YouTube and through gaming. I didn't think I had the ability to be a creator myself, but I thought if I could stay in the industry and be the guy behind the scenes and build that, then that was the space I got into. So I just basically learned about this industry for 3 years. I volunteered in so many different companies, and then when it got to launching Saulderson, I just kind of took this experience and wealth of knowledge that I built over the last 3 to 4 years into that.
And tangibly, what does that look like? Like, what are the first few steps you actually took to take this from idea to actually being a business? So
for Saulderson specifically, I was in quite a lucky position where right before launching the company, I had a part-time paid job at a company called ESL where I onboarded a number of creators and I onboarded a number of brands. So I was exposed immediately to how to onboard content creators, how to actually acquire content creators as clients, and then how to manage relationships with brands and manage budget with brands. So I had this immediate kind of advantage there. So going into launching Saulderson, it was quite simple in a sense to speak to these creators that I was working with at ESL who were under an MCN agreement, so there was no competitiveness. I could then talent manage them, because it's 2 different things. Talent management takes percentages of commercial opportunities, supports them with sponsorships, brand deals. MCNs are more ad revenue focused. So I was able to bring them in. They already had trust with me. And then at that point, when you manage content creators, you own their inbound opportunities. So I had influencer name at Saulderson.com in 5 influencers' bios. So most of the early traction came inbound to those creators, and we were doing small deals and managing small deals for them, which I had obviously learned from being exposed to this job for the previous 6 months and things like that. Actually, then the tangible steps to think about how do I actually start building and turning this into something. It really came from, a lot of it in the early stage was very natural. It wasn't like I was thinking about, right, how do I learn how to acquire clients? How do I learn to do this? It was a natural sort of process to begin with, because my mind was obviously, I was undergoing cancer, so I was just kind of going through the motions really. So I had brands reaching out to these creators. I would help them partner with my creators. And then one day a brand said, oh, we don't want to do this ourselves and manage this influencer budget. Do you have more creators? Can we actually just give you like 20K budget and you just handle this yourselves because it's taking so much time. We don't really know how to do it. And it was that point where I realized actually this possibly could be the model. Not working with managing the creators, but actually servicing the brands. Because talent management isn't really that scalable unless you have the top tier pinnacle creators. Because you're capped on the size of the creators you have. If I have 5 content creators who have 5,000 subscribers each, I can only extract as much value out of those creators. I couldn't ever get multi-million-dollar deals. Whereas if I work with the brands who have the budgets and it's creator agnostic, I can go and service them across multiple different creators, then that is the way to go. So at that point, that's when I started doing client acquisition and focusing on, right, how do I just go to clients, sell them this sort of pain point of influencer is this new channel. No one knows how to do it yet. I've been doing this for X many years. I have also these creators in my books. I've executed these campaigns. Let's do a test budget and whatever. And then I went heavily on LinkedIn, actually. It was all LinkedIn outreach. I have, all I was doing was just cold spam and LinkedIn outreach. And it used to be so effective back in the day. Now it's terrible. Now it's not as good. It's still, the strategies are still good. But back in the day, it was, you just reach out and people would reply because no one was on the platform. So it was just nonstop, cold copy. It was really bad. Just copy paste certain scripts that I was running. And then the idea that I always looked at LinkedIn was, and I tell a lot of people this, I look at LinkedIn, I always give dating analogy. I look at LinkedIn like Tinder, right? So I looked at it. LinkedIn is, I'm matching with the brand, I'm connecting with them, I'm speaking to them very quickly on LinkedIn, tell them what to do, and I'm trying to get them off Tinder as quickly as possible. I'm trying to get them as LinkedIn as possible, get them on a call, get them on email. Because it's almost like the dating funnel. I've personally never used Tinder, but I just know this analogy. You get them on Tinder, you're like, okay, let's connect on Instagram or mobile number. It's like you're essentially going through the funnel of everyone can access that brand on LinkedIn or the girl on Tinder. Not everyone has their email or their number because they have to actually give you that, so you're closer to kind of getting down the funnel. So that was always my approach in the beginning was LinkedIn, let's get them an email, let's get on a call so they actually get to know me and what we do, and then pitch them something from there. So that was kind of the steps I took in the earlier stages.
You're not proposing on Tinder.
No, you're not proposing on Tinder, and you're probably also not proposing on email or on a text, but you're developing a relationship, and over time you will.
Yeah. So it's interesting. You went from managing the creators and I presume taking a percentage of whatever they were earning, and you really started to build the agency when you flipped that and went to the brands and took a percentage of whatever budget they have.
Exactly. And we still manage creators, but it's a much smaller subset of our business. I think it's about 13% of our revenue actually, so a very small amount still. It's a very good asset to still have. We actually use it as a kind of upsell funnel. So brands will reach out to our creators who want to influencer marketing. We maybe have not identified them, and then we'll do a deal with our influencer and then introduce them to the agency offering. But yes, it's now we provide a more managed service to brand. We are either charging a retainer model, we're doing a retainer and percentage of spend, or just a pure percentage of budget that they're allocating. So one of those 3 models.
And was there anything else you did in the early days to sign your first few clients, or was it literally just repeat outreach?
It was literally repeat outreach for a lot of it, and tapping into previous network. Obviously, I built up a bit of a network. So the guys who hired me at my previous job, he connected me to my first retainer client actually, because they were trying to build within the UK market, and they were all German. So it was that kind of building a positive and solid reputation as someone that works hard and is growing this agency. I wasn't going crazily on personal brand or content at that point, but reputation, referrals, reaching out to my previous network to let them know what I'm doing and trying to get those in. But most of it in the beginning was just cold LinkedIn, and we signed a lot of pretty big clients from that. If I look at some of the names you mentioned before, ASUS was probably our first really large client, and that came from cold outbound on LinkedIn, and the timing was just perfect because they're looking to do a certain campaign, and we just had some wrapped up a campaign doing some of this, and then we grew that account. Acer, that came from inbound, and that we then flipped and grew. And then Ubisoft, that came from cold LinkedIn to then moving them onto email. So that was what we were doing very early on. The second thing that I then did to start building and scaling was we hit 100K in revenue within 6 months, and that was really just me getting these brands in, working with these creators, and then securing some budgets and then repeat business, ultimately performing well for the clients, and then sort of let's do a test campaign, 10K, goes well, let's then scale it up to 30k, 50, whatever.
And were you just on percentage of budget at this?
At that point, just purely percentage of budget, other than the one retained client, which I mentioned, who were paying me like, it's like 2,000 euros a month. It was nothing major. Then hired someone in December of 2018, because that was when I'd sort of passed this 100k of revenue. And then I was like, right, this could become something. Let's scale this up. So all I did was I brought him in, and that was really just to get more volume. The idea was I'm capped by myself and how much volume I can do outbound, because we weren't doing anything automated. We also, in terms of how many creators we could discover for brands to fill budgets that they potentially had, because obviously the way that we're earning our money is if we're filling creators with budget. So that's what he was doing, was presenting creator options to brands whilst I was sourcing new brands.
Interesting, because you're also, I guess, doing outreach to creators
Yeah.
all the time as well.
It's almost like two sales when you're doing influencer marketing. It's like, I always consider it, and why it's more, I want to say it's more difficult, but it's more difficult in a sense of, if I'm running a paid ads agency, I sell to the client once. I don't have to sell to Meta, because Meta just want to take my money anyway. Yeah. With the creators, I have to sell to them the concept of working with the brand, the messaging, the brief, and the budget that we have, and have some negotiations. You've got to get two people on board, which makes it a bit more tedious. Yeah.
And to hit that first 100k, roughly what do you think you were managing in terms of budget?
Probably like 400k, I think we were 20% at that point.
Okay. So you're getting a fair chunk of the budget for doing this. It's a reasonable amount.
Yep.
Interesting. And that was your first hire, this guy?
This is my first hire, this guy, yeah.
What were the next few around that?
So first hire was just a guy that I literally met on Twitter, that was a young guy, saw hustling and doing very similar to me, saw a lot similar to what I was doing, brought him on. The next couple of hires around that were, the third hire was initially we were hiring to do something very similar to the first guy, but we realized that this guy had more of a marketing background. So we thought, actually, let's get him to do a bit of a hybrid role. A bit of marketing for the agency. So he started doing, actually, my LinkedIn started because of this guy. He started posting content actively on my LinkedIn account, trying loads of different things. And then he would run content across our Instagram, Twitter, just to kind of build that presence, run SEO, optimize our website and things like that. Plus then also running campaigns. The fourth hire was a campaign executive, so she was just purely delivery, because at this point we had a number of clients on board. I was focusing on client acquisition. One of our team was focusing on kind of creator acquisition. This guy was focusing on marketing, and then she was just purely working on delivery. And then from that, like, most of the people that we started bringing on in the earlier stages were more just executional people. So we had like a guy who came in to manage talent, had more campaign delivery people come and go within the business as well. It wasn't really until 2022, 2023, maybe 2-3 years ago, when we started looking at slightly more senior roles. So yeah, earlier stages, it was just more people to execute on what I was bringing at the time, and I was just managing everything.
Interesting. What sort of revenue mark were you when you started bringing in more senior hires?
I think when we brought in this operations guy in August 2023, I think we were just at like 1 million revenue, something like that. Yeah. Was when we brought in Anthony, who came in to run initially, actually, he came in as a replacement for the marketing guy. But then again, we realized the actual issue we had was not marketing at that point. It was, I was doing everything, and I was operating the business, growing the business, selling and everything like that. And there was no real me. It was me to the team. There was nothing really in the middle to actually like operate and systemize the company. So he came in, started focusing on. Actually, didn't even have a CRM at this point. Like, we got to that much revenue without. We didn't even without a CRM. We actually didn't. He came in. The first thing he did was like, right, we're getting Pipedrive. So we got Pipedrive. We had a ClickUp's project management system, which was not very well used. So then he basically came in and he brought two South African contracts he worked with to like build out the automations and workflows, and then he started basically managing the team and the delivery, which was really leverage point for me, because it was just one of these things. I was just so involved in everything, and it was so hard to actually scale and think about growth and strategy and work on the business. I was just so in the business all the time. So that's what he did. A month later, we actually onboarded an advisor, because we got this guy on. I was like, right, it's clear that bringing on more experienced senior people has benefit and impact. And I was always against it. I was like, I don't want to waste money. I want to keep profit margins as high as possible. But I took the plunge. We got an advisor on board who was more like sitting as a non-executive director, supporting me with like go-to-market strategy, or how do we build like a client service function to actually focus on people who are in the company and scaling our existing clients as opposed to just always on new business. How do we structure the organization effectively? How do we build like employee benefits? How do we do salary mapping? All of these things. He came in and started working more strategic bits with me on a monthly basis. And he's also the person that was supporting me on my kind of goal to exit. So with him, we mapped out various different other senior hires. So we brought in then an account manager, brought in like a senior campaign person. Then we brought in a head of client services on board. We were bringing on like a finance person because I was doing all the finances myself. So started mapping out like all the key areas that almost need to run like the back office of the company. So I could just focus on the business and new clients and growth, because that's the part that I excel in, is spotting opportunities and growing existing and new clients.
We joked, but actually I think this is so smart, because I see a lot of people that are trying to do all of that shit at like 10k a month, and it's like you don't need
it is. Yeah, I know a lot of people talk about like I mentor some people, and a lot of people are like, you know, wanting to see my system and process and how do I do this, and you know, invoices takes a lot. I'm like, mate, the most important thing at your size right now is just get some fucking money in. Like none of this other shit matters. Like I totally get the opinion, and you know, I've been through the mindset of, hey, you want to build the business for a situation where if I build the systems now that can handle 50 people, it's easier than getting 50 people and then not having that. But when don't really have much going on, you just need to focus on what are the inputs that are going to lead to the output of money coming in and getting clients in, and people like overcomplicate it too early. I think I did it a bit too late, but I also think that if I did this all way earlier, it would have just been a bit redundant because we wouldn't have needed any of it, and it would have just been like wasted cost and wasted time.
It's procrastination, really, isn't it? Like away from the main thing.
Yeah.
The mentor thing's really interesting, or the advisor that you had. How did you get them to agree to become an advisor? Did you pay them? Did you give them equity?
So we paid him. He wanted. We had a couple of structures we discussed. He was going to invest a little bit, and ended up going that way. But yeah, I basically just paid him a monthly fee for certain time that I needed from him, essentially, and certain topics. There are different structures. Like I was going to advise for a couple of guys, and we were going to do a structure where they were going to give me small percentage of equity, and I was going to help them a certain amount of time. But for that one, it was just purely, he had certain hourly rates he wanted to achieve. I had certain things we mapped out, like the strategic initiatives that we needed to take for the business, and then just work through what was most important at the time.
And how did you find him? Was it through network?
So interestingly, I ended up on their newsletter. I don't know how I ended up on their newsletter. I must have signed up for something, and and in the newsletter I got sent once. It was like, what an agency audit about selling your business or something like that. And this is when I was like kind of interested in September of like, okay, what would selling my business look like? Like how could I get to that stage? And I applied for the audit. And then I went through and had a call with him. I was like, I want to sell my business, blah, blah, blah. And then he basically translated to him, was like, you're not in any position like to sell your business at this point. Like, and he wasn't wrong. Like there was no way that the way the business was structured and set up, and my involvement and all of these other things that we had very poor tracking of things, that I was going to be able to sell it. So he was like, if you want to get to this, like I can support you on the. He's basically a guy who ran a very traditional like SEO search agency back in like 2009, 2015, sold it for 37 million or something, and then started this like consulting business. And literally I'd never heard of him before, before either. It's just I ended up somehow on their funnel. I think I must have signed up to something, and I was like, it was quite valuable from that first call of just identifying the issues that I had and the naivety I had to think that I would be able to sell at that point. And basically sold me on that call on like a in-person strategy day. So I was like, you know what, I'll do it. You know, we've got enough money in the bank that's not going to cost us a load. And if it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't go anywhere if it's not valuable. And I went and I did it. And after the first strategy session, I was actually like, I don't really know what I got out of this. But I was like, you know, let me continue for a bit, because these types of things, you don't see an immediate return on investment straight away. And sometimes it is the perspective change and the thinking and whatnot. So I started going with it for a few months after that. And then when we started going through the different bits that I was missing in my business, I started realizing, okay, these are longer term things that I'm not going to immediately see a tangible benefit from, but they're all going to be key things that get my business to be more of a sustainable company, and when we eventually go to sell, are going to be valuable. So started working with him on a lot of things and did see tangible return on some of the things that he told me to do, like some of the hires that he told me to make. One hire we made back in June this year, last month, closed a $2 million deal, right? And that's a tangible benefit from hiring this specific person, because he interviewed her and thought, this is the type of person, this is what we should set them up to do. So there's definitely been specific tangible benefits, but it's also structurally how the business should look and what a good agency needs to look like to actually be acquired was a lot of the things that we were doing. And in the earlier stages, I kind of actually moved away from being bought. When we started working with each other, I was actually very excited to just scale it and grow it, and I was actually going to potentially sell it in 2030. So we weren't specifically doing these things to sell it, but just a byproduct of these things get your business to be in that position.
I'd love to dive into some of the things you did to build enterprise value, because I think that's something a lot of people miss when it comes to agency growth. But I'd love to hear first, like you said, you got to $1 million 2023, that was 2022?
About 2020. Yeah, I think it was 2023, August 2023.
Am I right in saying you're now doing 500k a month?
Yeah, 500k a month.
That's quite a big jump, right?
That's
basically, let's round the numbers up, 5x.
Yeah,
in a matter of a couple of years.
That was $1 million GBP. This is 500k US. So we're doing about 395, so about 3.95x. So
it's still quite
a big jump. Yeah,
it's pretty good. So operationally, how does a £395,000 a month business look different to a £100,000 a month business?
Yeah, so I think it's so we have a much different org chart than what we used to have now. So we've kind of split the team into two kind of key work streams. And then there's a couple of other work streams, but the two core work streams are, we've got basically growth, and we've got a basic growth function, and then we've got a delivery function. So how it works is, we've got Anthony, and his role is, I essentially call him the managing director of delivery. He is the sole accountable individual for the delivery of all of our working and effectively. Underneath Anthony, then you have your campaign, we have our campaign and our delivery teams. We have then Tim, who runs our actual influencer delivery, and then the delivery people underneath that. So Tim and his team are actually executing, but Anthony's then accountable to ensuring that delivery is being done on time. We're hitting client sort of KPIs. Everything's being tracked effectively. Time tracking's being done. We actually know what we're resourcing effectively, because that part is so important to run right for then the growth function to do what they need to do, because if this delivery is not working, we aren't actually able to grow the business. Then the growth function, we then have Sue, who is like our head of client solutions, client services. And then within that function, we then got our client services team and then our growth team. So that's split into client service, which is existing clients. So we have our set of core 25 clients, then we have some other ones in there, and their job is essentially, we have a repeat business target. We've got and how much money we want to be making from clients who are spending over time. We've got client account plans to essentially grow our existing clients from X to Y across the year and all of that stuff. And their job is essentially, what value can we add to the clients across the year, and then how does that come back from a monetary perspective? So they are looking at our existing clients, and they're signed on certain accounts, and they are actually commercial partners in a sense, because they're not doing very much delivery. They're just thinking about, where can we add value, what strategies can we essentially sell them. But they obviously work very much in tandem with the delivery team, because the delivery team are finding out things, they are actually delivering on the accounts, seeing what's performing, and then the client service team can then look at growth initiatives for the accounts. Then we have the actual growth people who are purely new biz focused, who have net new business targets. I personally work a lot on net new business, just an area that I'm very interested in. So then I've got myself and another colleague who do that, and then that's split up into, I lead the bigger deals and he leads certain smaller size ticket deals. These two departments collaborate often, so I work me, Anthony and Sue work together, and then these departments collaborate as well. Then you do have your some of your other functions. We've got finance, bookkeeper, that's kind of off to the side, and then you've got whoever. doing little bits and pieces. You've got your BDRs who are helping the growth team, but that all sits under Sue. So that's how things are operating at this point. Back when it was just at the 1 million size business, it was me, Anthony, and kind of everyone else. So we didn't really have it split out into two key functions and treat them differently with very key different KPIs, because what actually led us to growing so much over the last 18 months was a deep and very tactical focus on growing existing clients. It wasn't actually that much a new business. It wasn't actually, we've done a lot of, we've still done new business naturally, but majority of the focus was, we have all these very big names, but we're only getting like a fraction of their overall marketing budgets. And yeah, sure, influencer probably isn't their biggest spend, but even of their influencer and social budgets, we didn't even know what their influencer budget was for the year. We had none of this information. We were working in a very transactional way. It was a very like transactional relationship where it's like, okay, here's some money, let's do a campaign, let's get some creators on a monthly basis, and just kind of always on. It wasn't really a strategic partnership. So we changed more towards, how do we become a kind of influencer growth partner? I know a lot of people say growth partner, but it's more just like a strategic partner for the brands, where we are like essentially part of their marketing team, and we're like part of the influencer team within their business, and we have full visibility across the marketing calendar across the year. And that means that our growth people can work further in advance and think, right, okay, there's this kind of period that's happening in summer, and we're right now in April, right? Let's start actually working strategically, thinking about what can we do at this point, start looking at data and analyzing exactly what we could pitch and sell to the client. And what we found out is that a lot of these clients that we were getting like, 200 grand a year in budget for, found out that they had like 4 million in budget across the year. And also because we just never had asked the question. We were just focused on like, right, just little bits of growth, getting a new business, but we weren't focusing on what was already in our business. And it's so much easier to sell to an existing client because they already have a history of purchasing with you. I don't have to go and gain their trust because they know that we're good. So it's been the biggest focus of ours across the board, is going from, and I did like a little webinar with some of my students the other day of how do you go from doing a single deal with a client in influencer marketing to do multiple deals, to turning it into repeat business, turning it into retain business. And that was the whole process that we've been on over the last 18 months. So we went from having Ubisoft, one of our clients, who spent in the first time I worked with them in 2024, 15 grand, to this year, they'll have spent 2 million plus 500k. I don't know why I had to do the maths. 2.5 million. I don't know why I had to do the maths on that, but you know what I mean? But like, it's that kind of growth journey of, instead of me going out and trying to find 2.5 million worth of new business, I just need to find it from my existing client base. So that was the biggest lever that we pulled, that we just weren't focusing enough on. It was just, and also that leads to inefficiency, because you have far too many clients spending far too little, and your team were stretched. Whereas if you have a fewer number of clients that are higher value, yes, of course, you need to put more effort and involvement in them. But in my opinion, the workload for fewer clients is who are higher value is easier than 100 clients who are spending 10k across the year with you.
Yeah, I hear that. It's that age-old question of like, would you rather 100 clients paying you $1,000 a month, or 10 clients paying you take?
Yeah, and we have like a target of like how many clients we want who are spending an X amount across the year as like a baseline amount of revenue, and everything above that is like projects and bonuses and new business, and that's fine. But it's like, we don't have to take that on because we know we have this baseline of clients. So we wanted to have 26 clients who were spending 100k in like fees with us across the year, get it to 2.6 million, and then we have our new business and stuff come across that. And that is exactly what would want, because then we can have an understanding of what's coming in, who those clients are, how can we build and grow the relationships, and how can you actually build a deep connection with the brands. I always find, and you probably find the same, that people like to spend more with people that they trust and actually have a relationship with. And when we started focusing on building relationships, building friendships, becoming a partner with the brands, meeting them in person, flying to their offices, things just unlocked that you just would never experience from just being on a call with the brand.
Mm. Yeah, you talk about numbers a lot as well. Like, you have targets, you have criteria that you want to hit. Has that changed the way you run the agency? Is that something that you brought in like after the 100k mark, or?
Yeah, it changed. It changed because and my new YouTube video, I think it's dropping tonight, is talking about the biggest mistake I made early on in the agency, which was not having a good enough understanding and tracking of the numbers in the business. And it was like my old financial strategy in the past was, right, how much money's coming in, how much money's coming out. Okay, I've got more coming than going out. That's good. That was literally my strategy. And I said those exact things in the video. And then when when we started progressing and moving forward and got an accountant and whatnot, I started really actually looking at, right, what did we achieve this year? What is expected growth area of agency? What should we be spending on certain areas of the business? So everything now ties down to, right, this is our overall like spend goal with, gross revenue goal with clients. This is our overall revenue, then revenue up with agency fees with the clients, and then this is then what the EBITDA is. So then we basically just do everything from a numerical basis and break it down from that. Okay, so I know I need to get 6 million this year as an example, right? And then our average order value or our lifetime value with the client is this much. This is our average time to close a deal. This is how many people we need to be speaking to. This is how many events we need to go to. And we just build it back from there. So you have like a revenue waterfall now of net new business target versus then average number of deals that need to be opened, average number of appointments need to be set, and all of these numbers that then work back so that it's very tangible for the team to work towards targets because they'll be mapped out for the financials at the top. I work religiously to the numbers. Like I update them personally, manually every single week because I still want to see where they are, even though they auto pull in different dashboards. But I still like maintain my own personal sheet just to make sure things are on track, and I'm very focused on ensuring that we're either staying under like spend or we're at where spend needs to be. And if things aren't like that, what do we need to adjust? What do we need to roll into later on in the year? Because I think if you're not leading with the numbers, you're going in a bit blind.
Becomes almost scientific when you have it down to that level of detail, right? You
remove the emotion from it, and having emotion is all right, but I think you need to be very very structured and logical because there is a science to how you build certain things, like how much marketing spend you need to put in things, how much client acquisition spend you need to put in things to get to certain inputs will lead to certain outputs. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, if you know what those are and you can map it back to your overall targets, you can still fail, but you set yourself up for a much better chance of succeeding.
Yeah. There would have been a point somewhere along your journey, I imagine it would have been around the 100k a month mark, where you did make that conscious decision to decide to build to exit.
Yeah.
Rather than just keep it as a lifestyle business, which probably would have been, relatively speaking, quite easy. Paid you quite well, been quite a nice life. Talk me through your thinking.
Yeah, so I ran it as a lifestyle business for a very long time, actually. It was actually literally until August 2023 I ran it as a lifestyle business because I wanted to keep the team small. I was excited about travel and going out and doing like the classic like Iman Ghazi, like what every young entrepreneur gets into, that sort of lifestyle. And I just felt like, oh, this is what I have to be, because that's what everyone else is doing. It's like, this is pretty much my life. This is how I have to do it. So I started literally going to places just to like take Instagram calls. It wasn't because I wanted to go to
Someone go to Dubai.
Oh, I didn't do the supercars and take the videos of that, but like I would literally just do things to have a nice aesthetic influence Instagram feed.
Yeah.
And the thing was, so like, lifestyle business was good, it was making good money. But the issue was, right, team weren't exactly very motivated. So we were just kind of plateauing, and we were staying in the same revenue level for a little while. We grew, but like not by any means significant compared to before. It was like, we were maybe at like 1 million, and then we went to 1.1 million, 1.2 million, like that type of growth over 3 years, right? Nothing in comparison. And, the team aren't motivated to build and grow and be there. And I actually had people in my team that were like, we're just sitting back at home working, and it looks like you're just, going out and spending all this money. And I actually did have conversations with the first guy I ever hired about this, of like, I feel like I'm just working and doing all this stuff, and you're just making all this money, and I'm just here in the UK and like living my life and getting paid a normal salary, but I'm doing all this for you. And it's like, yeah, there's different dynamics. And that wasn't the main reason behind it, but it's just that was one piece of it. Then I kind of went through my sort of travel phase, and I came back, and it was this very similar time where I was just kind of like looking at what did I actually want to do when I started, when I set out and start a business. And, you know, I look back at when I had cancer, and it was, I wanted to build a business that could leave an impact, make a name for myself, build a legacy. And that was the biggest fear that I had at that point, was I might die without creating something of impact and legacy. Because I always wanted to be known. I always had to have some sort of status and impact and whatnot. And I was thinking, is it like a lifestyle business with 4 people really that? No, it's not. Like, what is legacy and what is status and what is impact? That is someone that has built a real, solid, tangible business that people envy. People don't, like, people do envy having a lifestyle business, but it's not the right type of people, in my opinion. It's like the guys that like are working and, you know, want to just like not do very much. Basically, it's like real entrepreneurs don't envy a lifestyle business. Like real entrepreneurs, I look at like a Stephen Bartlett. That guy doesn't need to work, but you see his videos, he's non-stop, and that is serious shit. So it's that kind of shift. And then obviously it was around the similar time of like meeting Simon as well, where I kind of went through this process with him, and I was like, actually, like, if I get an advisor on, we can really build the business to be something of effect and not be this just kind of lifestyle business. And I have guidance of how to do this as well, because I think there was also a fear of mine of, do I really know how to do this at that point? Because I know how to get a business to this size, but my competitors have grown and I haven't really. Of course, that's because I'm kind of running it as a lifestyle company. But I think because I had a bit of direction, had some more senior people around me, and I could see it a bit more clearly, to the point where, yeah, let's actually have a run at this. And I kind of had that belief in myself that I could do it. So that was the sort of shifts. I also think part of it came in because I sort of got my girlfriend that I'm with right now, and I think when you get a relationship as an entrepreneur, you kind of stop doing a lot of that stuff because you're a bit more, you know, just wanting to focus on yourself and your business and your family. So I think a couple of things played into a factor at that point, which then made me think, right, what's this next stage of the company? What are we actually set out to do? Let's actually make Saulderson something that people don't just think is great right now, but people respect later down the line.
And what point did you know you wanted to sell the company?
September 2024. So
just over a year.
Just over a year ago, yes. So as I mentioned when I brought Simon on, the plan was we set out a path to sell in 2030 for a certain value, which I wanted to sell for. And that was like an exit where it was sell, leave, be done with this industry. Like I would be in like 5 years time, I'd be like 29. This before my 30s, sell, finish up, start a family, and like, you know, just walk out of the company, kind of have the business at that scale where, you know, I'm pretty much redundant. September 2024 comes around, or maybe even August. It was around this point where honestly things were going really well in the company. Actually, I think we'd signed we're working on like our biggest projects, and I remember actually phoning Simon when he was on holiday and just saying to him, like, I don't know, I just feel some weird way, and it's like nothing's bad, like things are actually at an all-time high, but I just feel like, you know, I just kind of wanna make this move and move on and stuff. And he told me to think about it for a bit, and I started thinking about it a lot more, and then a few more thoughts in my brain materialized as to, yes, I think right now is the time to sell. And there's 4 key things, and I hope I remember all 4 of them, but there's definitely 4. So the first one was that I've been doing this for so long. I've been doing this since I was 13 years old, and my long-term goal is to probably do something in like tech entrepreneurship. Well, there's two conflicting ideas I have. One, which is create a physical product that people can actually benefit from in their lives. Because right now, what I do is I make rich influencers richer and rich brands richer. Realistically, is what I do, right? I don't make the everyday person's life better. I guess we do because we give them great products to see and whatever, but I don't have I'm not saying I'm going to create a plant, but like something that can be in someone's house that can provide them value that they can really, like an iPad, whatever it is, right? Yeah. Or AI, SaaS entrepreneurship, and something that's like bigger scale, you know, huge valuations, great team investment, that type of stuff. So that's like my long-term goal. And I was thinking, when do I want to potentially get on doing that? When do I want to have family? And I was like, right, actually, maybe I want to do this a little bit earlier. You know, I've been with my girlfriend for a little while now. Maybe I want to do, you know, that sort of bit earlier. If I do this now, my business isn't in a position where I can walk out immediately. So I'll stay with the business for a little while. When will I be done? Okay, the timing is quite good right now. So that was one reason. Second reason was I've also been building as a solo entrepreneur all my life as a solo individual. And a part of that is quite lonely, actually. And you probably know, and anyone else who's watching this, is that whilst you can build a senior team, whilst you get an advisor, at the end of the day, it's like you don't have anyone on your same level that's next to you that you can rationalize and sit down with a decision. Everything falls back to you. So if shit happens, it's on you. You're the extreme ownership, take the accountability. And it is quite a lonely situation to be in. I also think that there is only so much that I'm able to learn going solo and going alone. So I wanted to essentially expedite my knowledge right now by being in a bigger company who has, you know, hundreds of employees and is making tens of millions a year in fees, and be in that environment where there's people who are way more experienced than me that I'm like learning from, and I can develop my skills and my knowledge, because that will also help me in my tech entrepreneurship and whatever journey, because at that size and scale, I'll have to be having a much larger team and, you know, something of larger scale. So that was the second piece. Third piece was, we are in a weird position with the agency where we're too big that we don't want to take on these smaller companies, but we're also, in a sense, too small to get our foot in the door with some of these bigger companies. And an example is that I went and I was in a pitching process with a very large game publisher a few years back, got into the final two, and they asked me how many staff I had. I actually lied to them to tell them I had more staff at the time because I knew we'd have too low, and it was still too little because they didn't perceive us as a big enough agency that could handle them. And some of these larger companies, especially when we're dealing with multiple million budgets and companies have big procurement teams and want the people to have an office or certain accreditations, they don't take you seriously, and they don't think that you are of a big enough size. So I was not even getting in the door with some of these companies, and I was like, is there a way that I can also then expedite that process of being in a larger group where they can walk me into those CMOs, into those businesses that I can't access right now that we've always wanted to work with, and those bigger dream clients. So that was another one. And the final and the fourth, so I have remembered all of them, is influencer marketing is so hot right now. And there was the best time to sell influencer marketing agency was 2022 when Timothy Armu and Fanbytes did it and Go Agency did it, because the multiples were extortionate back then. Timo got the most insane deal that I've known to man. The next best time to sell influencer marketing agencies is now, because what you would see with agencies is that you kind of want to sell before you're obviously hitting the peak, wherein obviously a bigger company can squeeze more out of you. And the influencer industry is pretty much about to go through an exponential growth curve, because it's past this kind of doubt and concern of, is it actually an effective channel? People know it's an effective channel now. Now it's about, how can we see how it's effective against other channels so people are growing their spend? So right now it's worth about 33 billion. By the end of the decade, it's going to be 3x worth 100 billion. So we're about to go like this. And brands, or big private equity and bigger agencies, want to buy that in right now because they know they're going to get that organic growth from the industry that's naturally growing. So the valuations and the multiples are higher right now for an influencer agency than most other types of agencies. Maybe not all types of agencies, but a lot of types of agencies. And I thought about it in a sense of, when we pass this peak, or even maybe after this year where there's all this kind of hype and speculation about influencer marketing, and maybe next year valuations might go down, or the year after, and I probably would make the same amount of money because of the difference in valuation and difference in multiples. So those are the few kind of reasons as to why I went about doing it. And all of them, you know, kind of came through that thought process. And then I was like, right, this is the right time for me.
You of course don't just decide you're going to sell an agency and sell it, right? This was a year ago. So what's the process like? What are some of the things you did to make sure that you were a buyable company, like someone could actually acquire you?
So there was a few like actual in the business things. So I'll break it down into two bits. So there's in the business things that have to be done, and then there was the actual M&A process that have to get you to become a viable company. So in the business, a few things are obviously removing yourself from as much as possible, so your business is seen as more valuable and less. It isn't a necessary requirement, but it depends on what you're optimizing for. If you want to stay within the company for a while, it doesn't make too much of a difference. But if you're wanting to leave at some point and not be tied to the company, you need to be as redundant in essence as possible, because otherwise you're too valuable. The buyer is going to want to keep you in the business because you're the thing that's driving the team forward and the growth. Having a strong secondary leadership team to you, where you're not the kind of sole decision maker. So there's obviously Anthony and Sue that are accountable for certain areas, certain things. That there is just other senior people within the business, and there's a strong backing to you, because that also again makes you less dependent. Customer concentration was a big thing. Making sure that our makeup of clients were no one client was significantly bigger than us, and that's where the client growth piece came into. We had at one point one client that was basically making up a significant amount of our business, so we started focusing on growing our existing client base. Having a client concentration under 20% is good, under 15% is great, under 10% is really good.
That means one client is
not making more than that amount of revenue. Our customer concentration, I think our biggest client was about 12%. So pretty good place to be in. Most of the rest of them were 10, 8, 9, 4, whatever of our top 10 clients. So top 10 clients, you don't have any of them that are over, say, 15%, because that just means that it's just too high risk for the buyer. If one leaves, then their value in this sense is gone. So that was a piece that we're working on. 2, getting the financials really in check. Because I ran it as a lifestyle business before, we had to go and do a lot of adjustments of EBITDA, of what was I spending through the business that in essence was personal expense, and making those adjustments, showing the actual growth rate of the business, because that's important. So we had to work out the 3 years of previous growth. What was I, because I was obviously trying to bring the profits down as low as possible as a lifestyle company, and expensing most things. So getting your financials really in check, so it shows a real true picture of the business, and then also the forecast of what you're expecting to grow, and the narrative as to how you're going to go from the revenue you're generating now and the EBITDA you're generating now, and what organically are you expected to do, because that gets the buyer excited of what can you actually do with the business and what they're buying. Client acquisition is another one, having a predictable system to actually bring in new clients. Now, this one is obviously a very challenging one, because we do get a lot of inbound, we get a lot of referrals, but that's not necessarily really that attractive in the buyer's eyes, because they want a predictable way of you sourcing and bringing in new leads, whether that's through marketing, whether that's through business development, outbound, or whatever. So we had to work on our kind of go-to-market piece, which I worked on with our advisory firm as well. So that was extremely important. And then there's another piece in the finance part, which is about revenue recognition and just making sure everything was correct, compliant, and all of those things. So there were some areas where we were recognizing revenue in the wrong months and things like that. So some of those bits and pieces were important. So basically, business can grow as much as possible without you. You're not too secure to the company. Your contracts are good in a sense, and you don't have too high risk from a client's perspective. So that's a lot of things we did there. On the actual sales side, first thing I did was engage with an M&A company. So worked with a firm called Cowgills, who are based in Manchester, Leeds, and London, and they do a lot of mid-market sort of agency, SaaS sort of sales. So engage with them. They're the people that are essentially going to take your business and sell you and take you to market. So getting an M&A company and then also a law firm. Those are the two companies that you need. You need a law firm to help you with the due diligence process, doing actually all the contracting, and then you're going to need the M&A company that's going to manage the process, pull together the marketing material, set up the calls, do all the negotiations and whatnot. So we started that process in October of 2025. First 3 months was all just actually building what is known as the information memorandum. Essentially, your pitch deck that they're going to take out to prospective buyers to get them excited about the business. So showing a bit about the business, your makeup of clients, where the business has gone to, your growth rate, future looking spaces, basically your financials, your client breakdown, how you see yourself, what strategy you're going to put into place for growth, industries you operate in, geographies you operate, those types of things. So we were just basically spent 3 months preparing all that information because I had to go and bring through a lot of info for them. I was still working on a few things with the advisory company on the finance side to get right. And we didn't want to go to market in Q4 of 2024 because by the time we were ready with all those things, it's like it gets too close to the Christmas holidays. And it's like selling anything. I say it in a sense of selling your business is just like me or you selling our service to a client.
Sounds very similar.
It's very, very similar. You don't want to be doing it. Seasonality in certain time frames is also very important. You don't want to be sending someone an information memorandum, a pitch deck on 24th of December because they're clocked out, right? So we focused on doing it. A lot of this pre-work then. In January then, we just started finalizing all of those things. We were a bit closer to our end of our financial year, so getting a bit more clarity on the projected numbers because at that point you kind of know what you're going to be making by the end of March. And then we launched the actual process in the last 2 weeks of January, start of February. And that really is just cold email or going to people that are in their network of potential buyers, listing it on different sites. So we identified a list of 100 potential buyers and we tiered them. Tier 1, 2, and 3 of 100 buyers. As again, it's like how many leads do you? I mean, I don't think you do much cold outreach because you got a great system. But like, if you think about it from a cold outreach perspective, these guys who are pumping like loads and loads of cold email to get certain clients. So we identified 100 potential buyers, tiered them, so into all the tier 1s first, tier 2 and tier 3, based on who was the best potential fits for a business of our type. And then there were some other ones that they knew were in the market to do sales. And then also mapped out based on regions. So we have a lot of US business. So US businesses might be interested in us, but also businesses trying to expand to the US. So went out with 100 people to be like, do you want to have the information memorandum? They then sign an NDA, we then send it to them. So it's like, again, the funnel of outreach to then response to then actually taking the information memorandum. Some people then come and ask for more information. Then you'd get people on a call, go through a bit of like a discovery process, send them more information, get them to know about the business, introduce them to me, introduce them to like what we're doing, ask them about them, see if it's a good fit. So that process went on until I want to say April, maybe end of March, right? So that's about you run about 6 week to 8 week process. And then at that point, then it goes to, right, every single person has shown some sort of interest. Now we give you a set schedule and deadline of when you have to make offers. So you get a letter of intent. So essentially, non-binding, we want to buy your company, here are the terms that we're going to buy it on. So from there, we then had 5 people that gave a letter of intent, 5 people that are interested in buying the company, which I've been told is actually quite a good number to get for my size of business. We had a few people drop out because either maybe it wasn't too big, it wasn't big enough, or they were already in earlier talks with another agency they were thinking about buying. So we had 5 people that made a letter of intent. They were varying type of businesses. One was UK-based company, one was Swedish, one was US, and then there's another couple that were UK-based companies. And the idea for that is that they send over basically, this is the valuation that we're valuing your business on. Therefore, this is the amount of money that we value as the enterprise value of the business. This is the structure and the terms that we would buy the business on. This much up front, this much on deferred, this much on earn out, whatever it is. This is contingent on X, Y, Z, sort of terms. Then you go through a round of kind of negotiation process, almost as if like I'm pitching to a brand and then they've got 3 agencies pitching to them and then they're going through negotiations. And
so you play the buyers off each other?
You play the buyers off each other, exactly. So it's like one buyer made a good offer and then we went to the other buyers and say, this is the terms you need to get to be considered on the table. And you get all of them and then it's like, okay, now we've got 3 people who are on the same level. So, these are what we need to get to a certain place. And then we ended up with journey further. Before this, we did a lot of in-person meetings as well with buyers. So I would take them through the information memorandum, take them through a pitch about Saulderson, ask questions. So I met all these guys in advance before so they could feel me out and I could feel them out. We actually went through 3 rounds of iterations with Journey further, 2 rounds of iterations. So it was the third offer that we accepted. And that was because there was other buyers that were also interested and they were making good offers. And then we agreed on the third offer. Interestingly, they weren't actually the best offer, monetary value.
So why did you pick them?
So when you're selling your company, unless you're walking out on day one, you're gonna have to work with the company. And I had two things I was thinking about. One, who is actually going to care and building, interested in building and growing Saulderson? Where's Saulderson going to flourish as a brand? And two, where do I actually see myself learning, developing, getting on with this team and working well with? And the other company, I just couldn't see myself working with them. I don't think I didn't resonate with the founding team as well. Didn't really buy into their vision as much. Whereas Robin, who's the founder of Journey Further, he has a certain plan that he's going through with his business. He sold a previous business. This is a second run through. He wants to get it to X to do a private equity deal. Then he wants to eventually exit it. At this point, they've built this really great team, put a lot of focus on their people. We wanted to keep Saulderson as its own business and entity. All of my people would have much greater benefits. I thought I could learn a huge amount from him and then his extended leadership team. So there was that just was like, these are the type of people that I think I would rather work with, because when you're doing a deal, unless you get all the money up front, which you very rarely do, you're obviously at a risk of potentially even yourself not wanting to stay within the company if you don't like it. Like he, in his previous exit, he didn't even stay long enough to get the final part of his money because he left in 2 years because he just couldn't work with that company. And I thought about it in a sense of maybe this offer is bigger, but I probably would want to leave because I just can't see myself working with these guys. So that's very important as well. It's not just about the amount of money, it's about where your business is going into. And if you obviously care about your business, your team, and also the opportunities that come with being in a larger group.
What do most people not realize about starting a company? Was there anything where you're like, oh, that's actually quite strange?
A few things. Fuck me, it takes longer than you think.
It's pretty quick, I reckon.
Well, I was getting told all these bloody numbers of, oh yeah, people done it in like 3 months, the quickest you could do it, or we did it done in 6 months, 8 months, and that was that process take a long time. So that I think was the number one thing that I was like, wow, this is weird. The second thing that I was like, this is strange, was actually just the fact that it just reminded me so much of just the way that I sell things. I just didn't think that it would have so many similarities to how I go and sell my agency services to someone else. And I realized at the end of the day, you're essentially just selling a service or a product to another business. So that was weird. The second part, the final part, I think was like a bit of a shock, was just about the way that these guys like negotiate as well. It's like you're kind of like trading off different things it's more of like a trade in a sense of like they want one thing, we want another thing, they want one thing, we want another thing. So it's kind of like you concede on different points. So it's like, right, what do we really care about and what can we what compromise can we make? So right at the end of the deal, we got an all hands call and my M&A advisor and their lawyer are basically like arguing with each other of like, this is, we have to do this, whatever. And then they left the call and we had a discussion and then we agreed to trade off on certain things and then we traded off on that. So it was just very interesting the way you kind of negotiate. I guess the final thing was just like how tense it is up until the last minute. Like at any point, and you have to manage your emotions very well during this process, because at any point until the deal is complete, aka until the money is in your account, they can pull out at any point. And we actually, the night before closing, had a thing they wanted to change the contract last minute because their M&A advisor hadn't bloody read it, I don't think, and I genuinely don't think he'd read the contract until that point. I think their lawyers had done it, and he spotted one thing that he needed to change, and it changed quite a significant thing in terms of it was like a definition of EBITDA for their business. And it changes quite a bit because of the way they were defining EBITDA. And basically would change the value of their company. And part of my deal is a bit in shares of their overall business. So it changes potentially my value. I hadn't read it yet, and it was like right until the last minute, like that type of thing could have blown up the deal. And that when we were dealing with it, I was in Dubai at this point, right? So I'm on the phone with my M&A company at 3 a.m. my time. They're at 12 a.m. their time. Like we're like phoning each other. They're phoning me. They're phoning their M&A advisor, trying to negotiate this out. And like people don't forget they don't work on a 9 to 5. These guys, like when a deal needs to be closed, like it's 24/7. Everyone's about like to late hours of the morning to get the deals done. So yeah, that was pretty, and it was quite good because that's how I like to work. I'm always around, but it was I just was quite shocked that like these guys are just non-stop 24/7 getting these deals done. So that was pretty cool.
And then final thing I've got to ask, what happens once you sell? Like the money hits your account, you know it's done. What was the reaction like?
So yeah, I had two reactions because the signature got done on one day and the money came the day after. So that was stress. So yeah, so it wasn't, they didn't send the money the day after. They sent the money on that day, but because it's such a large amount of money, they had like a whole day of clearing from their account and whatever to mine. So when the contract got signed, it was just almost like a weight off my shoulders. It wasn't like any excited celebratory or whatever. It was just like, I've been doing this for a year. I can finally breathe. It's happened. So when the contract got signed, nothing really changed. Like I just kind of got back to doing my work. I actually then told one of my team members that same day because I was telling the rest of the team the day after and he was going on holiday. So I just got back to work, then went and told him, gave him the presentation of all of this, went along, did my thing. But that whole day, it was just worry with their CFO of like, where the fuck's the money gone, basically? Because we thought it got lost because they did a penny transfer first, right, to check it worked, and it worked. And then that came instantly, and then this one didn't, right? And it was, I phoned my bank that day, and they're like, we're not seeing the money come through. I phoned them the next morning, they were like, we haven't seen the money come through yet. She needs to do extra verifications. And then I phoned them again, and they said, okay, now we see there's a transaction, it has to go through processing, and like it might take 5 days. And we're like, because basically the completion doesn't happen until the money is confirmed there. So it's like everyone's sitting in limbo of like, when are we actually going to complete? And then my bank that I have stupidly doesn't have notifications, so I didn't know. So I have to keep logging in and checking it, right?
It's so funny.
It's because I have this expat account somewhere which doesn't have notifications. So I'm sitting there checking it every so often, and then I was like, I'm just gonna stop checking this because the bank told me it's gonna come 3 to 5 days. But then I decided to check it one more time, and I'm sitting there eating lunch, eating this like chocolate pudding, I think, that came with my meal prep, and I open it, and I literally just like, whew, I fall back on my chair, almost like put the chair. I was like, oh, holy shit, like what? I'd never seen that amount of money in a single line item on my personal bank account, and I was just like, holy shit. And the first thing I did was I phoned my parents. And my girlfriend did a funny 12-minute video of me just talking to my parents through the whole process and like show my mum the number on my computer screen. And
else know apart from obviously the people involved in the deal? Like even did your parents know?
Parents knew, yeah. So parents knew, girlfriend knew, people involved in the deal, and then I told few closest friends, and then by this point 3 of my team knew. Like I told the leadership team because I had to get their buy-in. Obviously, if I'm gonna go tell the team the next day, I want them to feel like they are in on the deal and they know what's going on, so that if other people come to them, it's like it's not such a surprise for them and they already have information about it. So they knew at this point, but for the majority of the time, it was my family, the people doing the deal, my girlfriend, and then 2 guys that I mentor because I had to stop mentoring them for a bit because I got too busy, and I explained to them as to why. And they also run an agency, so like they were very excited to like hear and learn or whatever. So a couple of people knew, but not that many. Like it was a weird process. That was one of the weird things. It was like I had to just become a compulsive liar for a year. And it was like, because you can't tell anyone what's going on. I was going for these like mystery meetings, and I was always busy and doing different things. And I was always on the calls with my lawyers and my accountants for, and I was telling my team it's just for certain strategy things. And it's like, you have to just lie to people. So that was pretty tough. But my parents knew. So I phoned them. They were in the car, and I was talking to my mum, showing her the money in the account and that was real and whatever. So did that. It's funny because I got only actually my girlfriend only sent me the video like last week because I hadn't asked for it, and I was watching it. And it's funny because after I hang up the phone, I basically write the number on this whiteboard that I had in my apartment at the time as I was tracking it all. Write the number that's there. She films it, and then at the end of it, I was like, all right, well, now back to work, I guess. And I literally just went and got straight back to work. So I was very excited that day. Like for about 4 hours, I was like in the sense of euphoria of like, holy shit, like I've got this much money, like multimillionaire, blah, blah, whatever, like cash multimillionaire. I can do all these things. But the feeling surpassed so quickly. And I spoke to a few people at solar businesses prior to this, and they were like, this is going to, there's a feeling's going to surpass so fast. And I think it's like a way that entrepreneurs condition themselves over time where I don't know about all entrepreneurs, but people that I speak to, where you can't get too excited about the highs and you can't get too excited about the lows, because then you just get drawn into too many ups and downs and ebbs and flows and extremes. You kind of keep yourself quite baseline. So I've got myself into a situation where, yeah, I celebrate for a little bit when we close a deal, but it's then like, okay, now what's the next target? And I don't overly celebrate, because then I used to get really complacent and not really do much. So got excited. I went to dinner that night with my girlfriend, met some friends the day after. But then by the start of the next week, I had pretty much forgotten about this, and I was literally just like, right, doing the exact same thing. And I barely even check that account or even remember that there's money in there, because again, it doesn't get notifications on it. And I haven't done an awful lot with it yet. Like, I've done a few different things, and I've, put it into accounts that will accrue interest and whatever. And I'm actually meeting with a investment company tomorrow. They're going to help me with like financial planning and whatnot, but nothing has really changed too much. And I don't really want to feel that like I'm a different person anyway. Like, I don't feel different. I don't want to act different. I just am the same guy that's now achieved and closed out this chapter. It's not really about like the wealth I have. It's like, we've gone on this journey. I've actually been able to do this and achieve this. Like, I know I'm a business person that can achieve an exit and is competent enough to grow a company, and it just gives me the confidence that I can build and scale on the next thing. But life feels no different. I don't live any way different. I thought if I was in my old lifestyle way of living, I would have probably gone to Dubai, first class, done all this stuff, flight, whatever. I'd stay in the same place that I was living. We're moving. I'm not increasing the rent budget, even though I've got significantly, more cash than before. I still try to live quite frugally. Like, there are certain things which I will splurge out on, but most of the case it's like I just don't live different, because I know that some people can get it and lose it just as quickly. And I've spoken to a lot of people who say they spent their money too quickly, or they made investments. Like Timothy told me he's spent like 2 million in his first year on investments, and barely any have paid off and paid back. So it's basically just wasted funds at that point. So I didn't want to rush into anything. Didn't want to get too complacent. I just want to do what I set out to do with this acquisition. Learn from the guys in this business of how to operate a business. And I've already learned like a huge amount of things, get exposed to great clients, get my business into the doors of some of these bigger businesses. They've got clients like Gymshark, Adobe, huge names that I'd love to work with, walk myself into those rooms and hit the numbers that I was wanted to hit anyway, and just build the business and have that vision. There will come a point where I will leave the business, but I'm not really thinking about that right now. I'm not thinking about how different my life is. And I kind of just like quite a simple life now anyway, just because I've passed that phase. So yeah, that's kind of how it was and how it is now.
Well, look, I think it's a beautiful note to end on, actually, because the mindset that you have around it is very grounded, which for most 24-year-olds is rarely the case. So credit to you, mate. You've absolutely smashed it. I'm sure the listeners would have loved listening to that story. I think the whole approach of like not getting too high with the highs and too low with the lows is something that people should live by a lot more. So
yeah,
it's a beautiful note to end on. For those that want to see more of your journey and find out what's next for you, where's the best place to check you out?
3 main places: LinkedIn, but that's more for agency, business, influencer marketing content. So if you're interested in that, that's where to go. YouTube, I do long form videos every week. A lot of the content now is actually going to be more like behind the scenes of like larger agency life, and more like tactical like growth for businesses that are maybe doing like 6 figures, wanting to grow to potentially a 7-figure exit. And then the final place, and I started doing a lot more on short form on Instagram and growing that. So everything is just at Suhit Amin. Luckily, I have a very uncommon name, so it won't be hard to find me.
To find him, but they're linked below, so go and check him out. Highly recommend, guys. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.